Everyone, welcome back to a very special episode from Nerd Initiative. I'm Thomas, and I'm joined with,
Lauren from Hops Geek News and Nerd Initiative.
oh yeah, and we're back. We're talking about The Boys as Lauren is going through the entire The Boys comic book series. We're just kind of going back and forth and seeing how it relates to the show that's coming out and also the episodes that have already come out. So we're doing a little compare and contrast here. And she's dropping a ton of knowledge because I've never read the comic and you are my expert. You're my guru, ushering me through this phase of Omnibus, I think volume 2 today, right?
Yes. Yep, we are on Omnibus 2. And I gotta say, so I'm rereading it for the first time since 2020, and there are so many things I forgot, and I love seeing the tie-ins that pop up while I'm reading to the show. So I hope everybody else out there enjoys it because that's really what we're doing here is just comparing the two, like you said, comparing and contrasting.
Yeah, definitely. And we found so many similarities, I think, last week, but we also found some answers that we didn't know, right? Like there was whose face was on the pizza. There's some things about Tech Night that we brought up, but we didn't quite have all the details, and I think you were able to find those.
Yes. So, whose face was on the pizza? That's a question you never thought you'd ask. So that was actually Flunky in Omnibus One, and that was a friend of Voz who is Love Sausage. He was supposed to be getting the pizza, and when the pizza arrived, somebody else brought the pizza, and poor Flunky's face was on said pizza. The other bit of
Okay.
knowledge, we talked a bit about Tech Knight. So Tech Knight's whole origin story in the comics happens in Omnibus One. It's pretty short, but obviously we've seen him in Gen V and The Boys. So I
Hmm.
recently rewatched season 4 in preparation for season 5, and that is where Tech Knight meets his demise. We should say there are spoilers for the comic and the show, so spoilers ahead.
Yep. Yep, totally. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, definitely for the comics, there's no way we could talk about this without it. But inadvertently, there might be some spoilers for the show if you haven't watched it too, because it's like
Right.
the show kind of picks and chooses like things from I guess the whole series of comics. Like I think even Omnibus 3 or Volume 3, and if there's a Volume 4, I would assume it pulls stuff from that too.
Yeah, it's all the way up to volume Omnibus 6. So that's why we have
Dang.
one each Saturday until April 8th. So we timed it beautifully. But so
Nice.
Tech Knight, though, is very short lived, no pun intended. And even though he's in Gen V and the boys, and he is, we talked about last week how he's kind of mocking Batman. So there are more things that we did not mention. For one, he is a soup in the show, not in the comics. In the show, he's a soup, but the powers they gave him are heightened senses, which help his detective skills. And obviously,
Right.
Batman is the world's greatest detective. And he has a reality show in Gen V. We see that, which is what he uses his detective skills for.
Mhm.
And they leaning in. Oh, I said the whole thing. Yes, that was leaning into the Batman thing. So that's pretty much it. All the other gross stuff about Tech Knight we talked about last week.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's The Boys, I guess the show kind of taking advantage of what The Boys does because as we were chatting about it before we jumped on mic, it goes to some pretty crazy places, and literally as well, like whether it's an orifice of the body somewhere, it goes there. So yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for kind of filling in those gaps from last week. So it's awesome. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so how does volume 2 kick off?
All right, so Omnibus Volume 2 are issues 15 to 30. So let's kick off with issue 15. This is Good for the Soul Part 1. So
Mhm.
it's been 6 months since issue 1. Starlight is getting majorly messed with by the Seven, and she walks in on her boyfriend. She's like, I'm going to go back home and see my boyfriend. Her boyfriend being Drummer Boy. However, Drummer Boy is having relations with somebody else. And so now she's questioning God. Blarney Cock, who was the guy that
Huh.
Huey had killed before with the hamster Jamie, or poor Jamie.
Mhm.
Compound V can actually make soups come back. So Blarney Cock is back, but he's like a zombie kind of version of his previous self. And but they're never
Wow.
right in the head when they come back in the comic. I
Mhm.
don't think they'll ever do that with the show. But
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I have heard about this even before I watched the show. And it's such an interesting thing to take it because it's like, oh, well, one with Drummer Boy, as we see on screen right now, like he's an absolute saint in the show, at least from what I
yes,
remember.
yeah,
He's like, seems like a really sweet guy. He's really nice. Like he's trying to just be a good guy. So to make him kind of a scumbag and the reason why Annie questions her whole religion is an interesting take. I feel like for the boys, the show, they just put that on Homelander. Like he starts
Mhm.
threatening her, right? Like he's in the elevator, he's gonna kill her and everything. But then to go back to the zombie thing, I think it's who knows what they're gonna do in the last season, but I think they've made it this far without having that. Like I think the closest thing they've shown us is that people, or I guess soups in the show, they just live for a long time, which brings me to one of the biggest characters for this season, which is Stormfront.
Yeah, Stormfront.
Mhm.
Um, so she's not in the comic book yet in Omnibus 2, and neither is Soldier
Y-
Boy. So it kinda
Oh,
shows you, like,
interesting.
yeah, like, how spread out the comics and they really do not follow the show to a T. It's like they're just picking and choosing what they wanna do. But
Yeah.
with Annie, last time we saw Annie and Huey in the comics, it was just a brief mention or brief, kind of meet cute or whatever you kids call it these days, which we saw in the show.
Yeah.
And so while Annie's kind of questioning God and questioning everything, she's sitting on that same park bench crying, and up walks Huey asking if she is okay. And she
Hmm.
instantly remembers him and just kind of hugs him because she remembered him as being the only decent guy she knew in New York.
So, is this from the first volume or is this now in volume two?
This is in volume 2, yeah. So it's kind
Oh,
of
interesting.
bringing it all
Okay.
back from volume 1. So because
Yeah,
her and Huey aren't dating in volume 1. So they
right,
start
right.
dating in 2.
Oh, I see. Okay, so they did take that storyline, they moved it into season one, and then it's at the beginning of season two, we see that Huey, he's still meeting up with Annie, but it's like, um, yeah, it's like undercover.
Yeah, well,
So,
because they met up the first time and it just happened by chance, and then they met on
mhm,
the same bench at the beginning of volume 2. And you can
got
see
it.
here, if you're watching on the YouTube, this is the, cover of issue 15, and that's Annie walking in on Soldier Boy with somebody else.
Oh yeah, with Drummer Boy.
Drummer Boy, sorry, Soldier Boy's just always on my mind, I can't help it, I'm sorry. Yes, the Drummer Boy.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I love it. I love it. Okay, that makes sense. So we're already seeing that, yeah, they kind of pulled some things from volume 2 into season 1. But what is similar is that Huey and Annie, their relationship is blossoming even more. Like it did kick off in season 1, but in season 2 we see like he's very much still into her, and that relationship I feel like even grows more this season.
Yes, and yeah, this is the first season that they so he doesn't know she's a soup yet, but this is the first season
Mm.
that they start to date. So in issue 16, which is good for the soul part 2, Huey actually asks Annie out. She gets drunk on the date, and it turns out it's the first time she's ever been drunk. But he,
Mm.
being the good guy that he is, he sends her home. He's like, "I'm not taking advantage of you. You're vulnerable and you're drunk for the first time. I'm sending you home." And of course, she loves that because he's being a nice guy. And again, he's the only nice guy she's met in New York. So we
Mhm.
see MM and Butcher eating popcorn and spying on the seven in their meeting room, while Huey spies on the teenage kicks, trying to figure out who they should have join their team because, Blarney Cock basically became a zombie, so they've replaced him. And because the media still looks at it as, oh, Blarney Cock's back, these people are, God's chosen ones. Of course, he came back, so they play it off like he's not basically a zombie, but they still need
Mm.
somebody else to replace another member. Meanwhile, Frenchie goes
Okay.
to the mob guy that is using the female to do the killing, and Frenchie finds the female and tells her to stop killing. Remember last week I had mentioned I didn't remember them fleshing those characters out well? Well, Frenchie
Yeah.
does have feelings for the female. We do not call her Kamiko, they call her the female. And he's like,
Mhm.
"Hey, these may be bad dudes that you're killing, but killing all these people is not good for your heart." So they go to Battery Park and eat chocolate limes instead of killing.
Chocolate limes?
Yes, chocolate limes. Yeah. I think
That
they
sounds
made
disgusting.
I don't remember, but I feel like they made a nod to it in the show, and if anybody who is watching or listening, like, make a comment if you remember that. Like, maybe I do need to go rewatch seasons 1 to 3 because I rewatch them all the time, but that
Yeah.
is a thing in the comics, and I don't remember if I just remember it from the comics or if it happened in the show too.
That sounds completely new to me in terms of like I don't remember that being mentioned in the show at all. So
So maybe it's
yeah,
just the
let us know in the
comics.
comments if we're wrong, but that sounds disgusting.
But I did like this because as soon as I got to this issue and read, because again, it's been, almost 6 years since I read it. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I guess they do kind of flesh them out a little. But what is funny
Yeah.
though is Frenchie is so tall, and I keep wanting to call her Kamiko. The female
Right.
is so tiny, and so is Huey. Whereas in the show, Huey's 6'3" and Frenchie's little. I don't know how tall
Yeah,
Frenchie is,
yeah.
but, Huey makes a comment of, "I'm 6'3". Why am I the one that has to get up in this vent during the Put the Christ Back in Christmas play?"
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. That's like I feel like typical kind of casting in a way, right? Where it's like as long as the person matches mostly the personality they're trying to exude, like you're kind of good. I mean, the example I'm thinking of is like Hugh Jackman. He's not
Yeah.
even close to Wolverine size in the comics, but it works because Hugh Jackman's
10 inches
attitude,
taller. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that, but like also like he's so Wolverine. Like he's just so
Mhm.
curmudgeon and angry and like ferocious and all that. So yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, when you get a good casting. But, like, if you look at the comic book cover, like, behind us, all of the characters kind of look like they're actors except Huey. Yet meanwhile,
Yeah,
Huey is the one that's the most similar to his character.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. There you go. That's like I feel like a concession of the show that they had to just it just made sense. And I think it's the right choice. I love Jack Quaid. I think he's one of my favorite parts about it. So it's cool to see that Huey's still that guy, which makes sense why he's so nice to Annie.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm,
Alright, so number 17, Good for the Soul Part 3. So, MM goes to visit his mom. This is something they never addressed in the show, and I don't think they ever will.
mhm,
Homelander is very mad that Dakota Cobb got word about the VP wanting to do a speech on soups in the military. See that in the show.
mhm.
It was Butcher that spilled this information. So Stillwell basically calls Homelander dumb for not realizing it was Butcher right away. This speech that the VP was going to make about putting soups in the military is effectively canceled because Dakota Bob does not want it to happen. Annie then gives her V card to Huey. So good for you, Annie. Butcher picks up MM from his mom's, and MM is disgusted but feeling buzz. He can already feel it going through his system in a good way. And then we end with Blarney Cock finding Jamie the hamster in Huey's apartment.
Cool, wait, what was Mother's Milk buzzed off of?
So we don't find this out. They don't even talk about this in volume 2, but I will go ahead and mention it. Mother's Milk is called Mother's Milk because he gets powers or strength from his mother's milk.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's very the boys in a lot of ways. But okay. So he still drinks his mom's breast milk. That
Yes.
then powers him up.
Yes.
But they're also like, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week, where in the comics, there's so much more cool with just taking Compound V, with just like getting powers. Where in the
Mhm.
show, it's like, um, what is his name?
It's like
Butcher,
controversial.
like he wants to do it, but he's fine because he'll do anything at all costs. But everybody else seems a lot more hesitant about it. But I'm guessing if Mother's Milk is drinking breast milk, then why wouldn't he just take Compound V, even temp Compound V to get powers too? So I
So
guess it
if I
makes sense.
remember correctly, and like as we do this throughout the weeks and I reread it and it's fresh in my head, I'll know more. But I believe he was a very sick child. And when he did that, it made him healthy. So it,
Right.
it doesn't just make him strong, it makes him not sick.
That's right. Yeah. I think you're right about that. Yeah. I don't know how I know that, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
You like knew it and you suppressed that information.
Yeah, I guess.
But
I don't
it's
know,
funny
but
because the rest of the boys don't know. And he comes out and he's like, "Ugh, I'm disgusted, but I already like feel it." It's almost, he's ashamed, but
yeah.
it's doing its job. And Butcher knows about it. But nobody else does. But they still call him MM, but I don't think they ever call him Mother's Milk in the show.
Yeah. Somebody does.
Do
I don't
they?
remember if they do. I mean, they at least say what MM stands for, but well, at least they say MM stands for Mother's Milk, but we don't get an explanation as to why he's
No.
Mother's Milk. So I don't know. That's a weird thing, but it also seems like, and we see it more in season 2, that trait is passed on to Homelander. Like you see later
Oh,
on with
that's true. I didn't even think of that.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I guess they thought it was like a weird thing that they could pass on to Homelander as somebody who didn't have parents and everything. But we see, I think it's in like episode 3 of season 2 where there is the shapeshifter, right?
Mhm.
That looks like
Stillwell, Madeline
still
Stillwell.
yep, that looks like Stillwell, and he's trying to be comforted, and the Stillwell, the Mystique character kind of says, hey, you can breastfeed or whatever if it'll comfort you, and somehow Homelander gets disgusted or something. But yeah,
And then
it seems like a trait.
Firecrackers nursing him in season 4.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. So yeah, I guess they passed that trait on, which to be fair, it seems like it makes in some ways way more sense. I don't
Right.
know. Yeah, I
I
don't
do
know.
wonder if they'll do a shout out to it in season 5 because to name him MM and never address it, but like, why call him that then? Why not just call him Marvin? Or why not name him Marvin something else, like Peter Parker and, make it MM his last name. I don't know what his last name is, but
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, they have to. I would think that they should give us some explanation. If it's out there already and we're just like completely missing it, drop that in the comments as well, like at us, because I do not remember there being like an in canon reason in the show for him being MM, other than it just kind of sounds badass and like real smooth. Like, hey,
yeah,
like I don't know if it's just I think his name's Alonzo something, the actor, but he is just like he's so cool. Like,
he is
he could
cool.
just pull it off.
Yes, he really can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the casting was phenomenal in the show. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's number 18, Good for the Soul. This is the conclusion. So Huey walks in on Blarney Cock with his pants down, hovering over Jamie's cage. So a lot of them can fly in the show. And he
Okay.
asks Huey why he killed him. So they can talk a little bit. It's just, again, more of like a zombie like thing. He then ends up peeing and attacking Huey, and Huey breaks his neck. So Huey
Wait,
effectively kills him again.
wait, peeing and then attacking him? What? Why does he
So
just has to
these
pee?
characters, for some reason, when they come back and they're zombified, they have no control over bodily functions.
Okay, okay,
And I'm
yeah.
I'm making this less as icky as it. Yeah, we
As
get a
it
little.
is in the show.
Yes, it gets a little more
I
ickier
mean,
with
in the
another
comics.
zombie in the show, and yeah, so
What the? All right, man. They yeah.
diabolical.
Seriously, yeah. Well said.
So back at the boys'
That's crazy.
headquarters, MM is still sick from his visit with his mom, and Frenchie and the female watch an anaconda documentary. They do make a note to that in the show. I remember both of them watching documentaries where, like, at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Or I don't even know if it was a documentary, but it was like an in canon movie series, just like The Last of Us had, where it's like, the Destructor 3 or whatever. But there was like an in canon show that I think that tied
Like
to
the
that.
two of them are watching.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, see, I love those little things. It's like, who goes through all these and like, oh, let's do this for the comic. Like, that's got to be so fun.
That's
Um,
yeah,
so the
definitely.
Deep shows up and tells Butcher that they know he's the one that told Dakota Bob about the speech, and the Deep asks if the truce is off. So we don't know specifically what the truce is, but he asks if the truce is off.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of different, I guess, truces that Butcher does in this series. So I'm guessing that, that can in a lot of ways relate to a lot of things. I'm pretty sure he had one with Mallory. I'm pretty sure he had one with Newman. So I guess it's just more of a nod to his character, right?
Yeah, I guess he really does do that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess when you're fighting such like, huge characters and soups, you gotta pick your battles and yeah, to call the truces where you can.
Yeah, yeah. That's why it was such a big deal. I think, what is it? This is major spoiler if you haven't watched season 4, but like where he kills Victoria Newman after, I
Oh, he
mean, like
rips
they
her in
had the,
half.
sorry, what was that?
He rips her in half.
I know, and that was finally like they had, with her help, they finally would have had the upper hand, and he really just kind of screws them at the end of this. Plus, you feel for her. She has the daughter, her daughter now pops up in Gen V, I believe, and it's like, but
Yeah.
dang, I was right when you're like starting to like her character too. I feel like, the
And
truce is
really
off.
feeling for her, yeah.
Yep.
Well, and what's interesting too is, we were talking about Victoria Newman, that's Vic the Veep in this, where,
Mm,
she was the VP elect. She never got sworn in. So she got to the point of VP elect, whereas in the comic, Newman started out as the VP, and he's the one that wanted to give the speech. So it's actually very much so season 4.
mm,
She, obviously is a soup, and Dakota Bob is trying to pass the no soups allowed in the government or in law enforcement or anything like that. Obviously, she doesn't like that idea because she is a soup. He knows she's a soup. She doesn't know he knows. Or I think she does know. I think she's just playing stupid. Um,
yeah.
but
This is
we
the
see how that play
this.
out.
Yes. Sorry. This was in the comics, right? I'm
Yeah.
like trying to. Okay.
Well,
Okay. Gotcha.
I was trying like the comics, yeah, he's it's both. So it's Dakota Bob did not want Soups in the military in the comic, and Dakota Bob did not want Soups in the show in the
That's
as
true.
well.
Yeah.
But in the show, Dakota Bob and Victoria Newman were never sworn in. They were
Mm,
elect. Whereas in the
yeah.
comic, they start the comic as VP and president.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
And it's the same kind of thing though. VP, and I believe they go more into the comic of how Newman is kind of an idiot that's kind of like played and manipulated by Vought, whereas obviously in the show, Newman, they gender swapped her and they made her very intelligent and
Totally.
gave her a huge backstory that yeah we go deep into in season 4 that makes you feel for her.
Totally. It feels like Dakota Bob though stays kind of the same.
Yeah, yeah,
More or less the
I
same,
think so,
right?
yeah, and that's yeah, Robert Singer. I should have pulled up a picture for him. I didn't see a picture, but everybody knows Bobby Singer. I know we talked about this last week. If you're a Supernatural fan, I mean, Jim
Yeah.
Beaver's
Yeah.
phenomenal. He's in so many things, Breaking Bad, and he's in uh, what is it, Deadwood,
Oh,
Supernatural.
okay.
Yeah, obviously the boys. He's fantastic.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
so we're about to start a whole new section of Omnibus number 2, and that's the same one. My bad. This is I Tell You No Lie GR Part 1. So we're now getting the legend basically telling a story to Huey. So I love how they do this. They are catching us up, the audience, on the
Hmm.
history of Vought, and they're doing it through the legend talking to Huey. And if you don't
Right.
remember who the legend is in the show, it is Paul Razor, which we met in season
Yeah.
3. So
Right.
the legend is giving Huey a history lesson, and it's towards the end of World War II, and a new plane is being given to pilots. It's not a great plane, and it kills a lot of them. They never get much coverage on this because the war is essentially ending. These were Vought planes. Vought has friends
Mm.
everywhere, and not in the good way like in Andor, and they pushed their cheap planes through. They do the same thing with guns in Vietnam, and then they do get dragged publicly, and that is when they end up having Homelander. They change their name from VA to Vought American, so they do a little rebranding. They
Hmm.
claim and then they claim Homelander. This might sound a little familiar. They claim that Homelander fell from the sky like a meteor. However, he was grown
Mm.
in a lab. So were Black Noir, Maeve, Mr. Marathon, Lamplighter, Jack from Jupiter, and the Deep. Supers had been around since the 40s, but now they were being perfected. Well, at least those 7 were. The legend says next up is weaponizing soups. We then see Annie and A Train are put on a newbie duty as they have to clean up after Lamplighter. So, this is what I was talking about before. Lamplighter is also a zombie. So, he was killed by Mallory because remember in the show, Lamplighter killed Mallory's grandkids. Of course,
Right.
he didn't mean to in the show. In the comic, it seems more like that. And Lamplighter Mallory put a bullet through Lamplighter's head. In
Oh,
the
so in
comic,
the comic, they're saying that he did purposely kill them.
yes. Yeah.
Interesting, because they make it seem like that in the show too, right? Like for a long time, you just think he's like this evil, despicable person that, he had so much revenge on Mallory, he goes to kill her, but then also kills the kids. But it seems like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was more purposeful in the comics. In the show, they try to make you think it was purposeful, but later on, towards the end of the season, you find out that he wasn't trying to kill her kids. It was more of an accident. He was trying to
Yeah.
kill her still, but like he burned down the house, thus killing her kids.
Yeah. He's like, I didn't know there were kids in there. And I think that's a great thing for a show because, you want to make the person feel for, everybody in the show. I mean, hell,
Right,
we feel
right.
for Homelander at times in the show, especially in season 4, I feel like.
Yeah. Yep, yep, definitely. Yeah,
Um,
they do a good job with it.
so yeah, basically Lamplighter is being kept in the 7 tower. Remember, it's not a tower, it's up in space. And Annie and A Train are being forced to clean up his literal crap. Uh, so Homelander knows everything that Butcher has done, but he wants to know why. Homelander doesn't understand why Butcher's out to get him, much like the show. So after
Mhm.
Lamplighter and Mallory's kids, Homelander thought they were done, and then he asked Butcher, like face to face, he's like, "Why do you hate me?" And that's how issue 19 ends.
Hmm. Okay. It does remind me of, and I don't know if this is season 2 or season 1, but there's a conversation where Homelander comes to Butcher's house and they have like a one-on-one, and you don't really know if it's in Butcher's mind or not, but like it's so random that I remember that scene for whatever reason, but he's like making tea and they talk and they keep finding ways to make these two interact. In the show, it's very clear why I guess Butcher is after Homelander. Well, I will say it's clear after he realizes that Ryan is alive. Then it becomes extra clear.
Right. Well, in
Yeah.
the comic, we found out in Omnibus 1 that, he flat out tells Huey, "Homelander killed my wife." But
Hmm.
Homelander, I guess doesn't know this yet. But then we go to I Tell You No Lie GR Part 2. So Legend is still telling his story. It's
Hmm.
the end of Vietnam, and Vought decides to go after Jonah Vogelbaum. So here's Jonah Vogelbaum. I guess we'll talk about him in a second. So he came up with Compound V in the comics, not
Mm.
Godolkin or whoever did. I guess we'll find more out about that in Vought Rising. I can't wait for that. So the Vought competitors
Right.
actually kidnap Jonah Vogelbaum, and he ends up killing himself. Now all they have are his notes. Sounds very Captain America-y. And that's where the B squads come in: Payback, G-Men, Teenage Kicks, and Young Americans. However, many
Mm.
corporations, the military, and politicians have been fighting for Vought or fighting Vought, fighting against Vought for years. Dakota Bob is the man to fight Vought after all these years. So that's like how they get him into office to fight Vought because they know Vought is evil. But
Mm.
Vought made sure that Dakota Bob was going to be president. They were going to have a VP like Victor K. Newman, Vic the Veep. He's an idiot, but he's obedient. And now,
Mm.
so now we fast forward and it is September. And September is very relevant because it's not just September, it's September of 2001. So this was
Mm.
a bold move in the comics that they would have never done in the show. A
Yeah.
plane is heading for one of the World Trade Towers. However, it crashes into the Brooklyn Bridge. Other planes heading to the other tower in the Pentagon are shot down, and the last plane gets intercepted. And the legend said, "That's when the trouble begins." And that's where we end issue 20.
What do they mean by that? That's where the trouble begins. Like, we're because okay, yeah. So they're doing it. They're going for like a 9/11 comparison here. But are they saying that any of the supers like interact in the conflict?
Uh, okay, so I'll start talking about the next issue where he goes into it, but keep in mind the plane that Homelander and Maeve go to save,
Yeah.
that doesn't go well. So that was their version of this. So I'll go to this, and I feel like some of this will kind of refresh your recollection of like,
Okay.
oh,
Yeah, okay. Because we see in season one, like they don't try, like Homelander doesn't try to save the plane anyway, and the plane crashes, all of them die, and that's where we get the Deep coming back and like looking in the wreckage and stuff like that. Okay, so there's a connection or I guess a reason in the comics.
yeah, yeah. But it was a ballsy move, man, because this came out, I think, in 2005, 2006. So this is 9/11 was fresh. Um,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right. So the
Dang.
legend continues his story. So we see a happy little boy peering out of a plane window at Homelander. The legend continues. Back to 9/11, a pilot is told not to take the plane down. We then see the seven surrounding this one specific plane. The ones that can fly are holding the ones that can't. So Lamplighter, Homelander, Maeve, and the Deep can all fly. I think that's funny that the Deep can fly. We then see
Also,
Black.
also Homelander. I mean, sorry, Lamplighter. I mean, why Lamplighter?
I don't know. They have a lot of people can fly in the comics. I feel like they probably didn't do it for the show for budgeting reasons, maybe.
Yeah. Also, it's just so OP. Like, if you're super strong and you can fly, if you can shoot fire and can fly, like, I guess it kind of works
It
for
is a
Human
bit
Torch.
much.
But yeah, that's a lot. You're
But
like
even
so
Maeve can
overpowered.
fly. I don't think she can fly in the show. I don't remember her flying.
Yeah, no, she doesn't. That's why Homelander has to hold her as the plane crashes in the
Right.
show.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Black Noir all of a sudden falls. Legend says, and this is relevant to the much far into the future, he doesn't know how Black Noir fell because Black Noir can't fly. Maeve and Homelander then
Hmm.
pry open the plane door, and that happy little kid that was peering out the window flies right out to his demise. Uh,
Jeez.
Everyone is panicking, and Homelander yells at all of them to shut up. Suddenly, all of their ears are bleeding after he yelled. Deep then busts the windshield in. Jack from Jupiter totally dips out. Homelander is now yelling the N word repeatedly. The plane is crashing. Black Noir was supposed to be the pilot, but he fell, so they have no plan. Homelander flies out of the plane, and Mr. Marathon grabs onto him in sheer panic because he cannot fly. Then they fly through the plane to prevent it from crashing into the city. This decapitates Marathon Man, which makes way for A Train. And then we see Maeve fly out of the plane, and the plane crashes into the Brooklyn Bridge. Vic the Veep had called in the Stoops, but when that failed, Dakota Bob ended up lying and said that the Air Force had shot it down.
Huh.
So that's why they said all the problems had begun. Like, it was starting to get harder to show that these soups were just terrible people, were not actually doing saves, didn't know what they were doing.
Mm.
But I think the show did a fantastic job of having that plane that we talked about last week with the one guy that didn't agree with Homelander, how Homelander took down that plane. I thought they did a great job of combining that mixed with the plane that Maeve and Homelander were trying to save rather than going into
Yeah.
any 9/11 stuff on the show. I think that would have crossed a line even for the boys. And I think they're smart about that. They cross the lines that we don't want
Yeah.
them to, but not the ones that they shouldn't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not, you know, it is of no, it's not. It's not of like life or death, I guess, in a sense. Like they cross a lot of political lines, right, in the
Yeah.
show. But the comic is literally just crossing all kinds of like moral lines, political lines, like everything. So yeah, that's man, that's brutal. But also like you Mr. Miracle, I don't even know what his power set is in the comics or whatnot, but I mean, if you're gonna
Oh,
kill him
Mr.
off
Marathon?
anyway, sorry, what's that?
You said Mr. Marathon?
Mr. Marathon, yeah, Mr. Marathon.
He just runs really fast. That's why A Train was a great replacement.
It seems that like so it's smart that they just kind of jump ahead and not really, need to because I think A Train in the show is a fascinating character, right? Like, and they
Yeah.
play into it about the race and about, even more in Gen V too, how all of these kids, they're being utilized as marketing ploys and all this stuff, like we're seeing with college athletes now. And I think it's interesting what they do with A Train, a lot more than only now are we getting A Train in the comics. So they obviously did a really good job of like spinning that character and doing something a little bit different with him than what they do in the comics.
Yes, he definitely has more layers than he does in the comics. In the comics, he seems very just but
Hmm.
all right, so we're going back to Mallory for number 22. This is I Tell You No Lie GI conclusion.
Okay.
So the comics were rewritten for months after the plane incident. The legend tells Huey that Mallory killed Lamplighter, who became the first soup to regenerate, and A Train replaced Marathon Man, which we just talked about. We learn
Mhm.
Mallory is actually the one who started the boys, not Butcher. Legend then
Mm,
explains that Lamplighter went looking for Mallory and got the grandkids. Instead of the boys getting killed by the rest of the seven, and the boys releasing all the files they had on the seven, they let Mallory kill Lamplighter and they call a truce. So this is the
mm,
truce that they were essentially, or Homelander was asking, is this still going on or whatever? So Butcher
mm,
messing up the Veep's speech was a violation of the truce, but the seven were always the main goal of the boys. The legend's son, we learn, was actually a victim of Vought, and that's why he does what he does. He gets intel to
mm.
take them down. His other son, however, he says is a D-bag and was killed by Huey, which that must be Blarney Cock. So
Okay.
A Train
Oh.
tries to assault Annie, and so she ends up blinding him in one eye, and he wants justice for this. But Homelander says he does not care. You got what you had coming to you.
Wait, who does Annie end up blind? Is it Lamplighter?
A Train. So A
A
Train
Train, A Train. Okay, yeah, yeah.
goes to assault her,
Mm-hmm.
and she blinds him with her powers, but only in one eye. And he
Mm.
goes to tell Homelander, "Oh, she needs to da da da, she needs to be taken care of." And he's like, "I don't care."
Yeah, yeah. I like what they do, I think, a little bit more in the show, which is, now A-Train has dirt on Annie, but Annie finds a way to get some dirt on him with Popclaw.
Yeah.
So, it's rather than what you were just describing and anything, there's a little bit more savvy to it. It's a little bit more of like, this like who's got they're kind of dual blackmailing each other. I kind of
Yeah.
like that. I think that was like a really smart move with their characters.
Yeah, it's nice to see them more on equal playing field as far as threatening each other. But now,
Hmm.
the season 5 new posters came out today, and you see A Train on the one with the boys, and he's in the background and he's got his back turned, but
Oh. Nice.
Definitely more fun to see what he's doing in the show for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's had one of the greatest arcs, I think, on any TV show. He kind of reminds me of like Loki. Like seeing
Mm.
Loki go from like this ultimate terrible bad to what we're getting with Loki these days with him, he went from attacking New York with Chitauri to now being the one holding the whole universe together from the Idrisil. It's like, yeah, I put A Train and Loki in like the same category of people I absolutely hated and despised, who then have now turned around and I just absolutely love.
I like that because I love both of those characters. And yeah, you hate A Train immediately. You're trained to hate him, no pun intended, to hate him immediately because he sets the tone. Him running through Robin sets the tone for the whole show.
Right. Yeah,
And
exactly. We don't get Huey without him running through Robin. And yeah, we talked about it last week, but I still think it was just so smart. Rather than actually chasing a villain, not chasing anybody, him murdering her, blaming it on chasing somebody, but then you kind of see it allows you to see the manipulation of Vought too in the
Mhm.
show, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's so well done.
When he was, addicted to the compound V in season 1, it was, an addict. He didn't really, he cared, but he didn't really care. He cared more about his next hit.
Right, right.
So
Yep,
all right. So
exactly.
our next arc, issue 23, starts We Gotta Go Now, part 1. So this is supposed to be what Gen V was based on. However, it is just as loosely based, or Gen V is just as loosely based on this as you would say the boys' show was on that. So we're basically
Hmm.
we're going to college. So this is the G Men. So we have Silver Kincaid is looking for Uncle Paul in a random little town. It then appears that she kills herself using her own powers. We then cut to Rainer and Butcher at a coffee shop. I don't know if you remember Rainer. She lost her head. Here she is. So she's the one that had the little head popping situation in the show.
Oh
She's
yeah.
still very much so alive in the comic. And they meet at a coffee shop, but then they go and they do stuff in the bathroom that is very not sanitary. And then, they talk. She's head of the CIA. Rayner tells Butcher that they want to get the body of Silver Kincaid, but Vought beat them to it. Rayner thinks Vought or G-Men killed Silver Kincaid because she got in their way of making money. So she wants the boys to look into it. Since it's difficult to get cameras into the G-Men mansion, they send Huey undercover, and his name is Bagpipe because he's Scottish in the comics.
Okay.
Poor Huey.
For
So
Huey.
you see here, this is G-Men or Godolkin. We met Godolkin in Gen V. So this is basically the Godolkin guy, and that's why they're the G-Men. Obviously, it's a nod to Xavier. If you're
Okay,
on
okay.
YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, it's the cover of the comic.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'm guessing Godolkin is very much is he the same as what we see in Gen V? Because
We don't really get much of him in the comics. He seems to care about the kids. There again, it's just like nods. But in the show in Gen V, he seemed very animated. Once he got to use his own body, he was very animated and very excited and very like quick to kill. Whereas I will
yeah.
say in this, and we'll break this down a little bit as we go through here, he seems like he cares about the kids in a way. But I feel like it's like a
Interesting.
mixture of Godolkin in Gen V and Xavier.
Oh, interesting. Okay. It seems like they always just kind of change the motivation for the characters, but it still works. Like, like this one is, I guess in a way, Godolkin in the show kind of cares about the kids because he wants them to be all powerful so they can take their right place on Earth. So there's kind
But
of
he wants to get rid of all the lowly ones.
that's true.
Whereas
Yeah, that's true. He
this
doesn't care
one,
about all the heroes who have like crappy powers.
right? Which the crappy power ones end up taking him down. So literally.
Yeah, yeah. Dang, that's awesome. Yeah.
All right, so it's a issue 24. It is a toga party straight out of Animal House. It's at the G Wiz house where Huey's undercover. The legend is the one that helped make this happen. The house is basically a frat house for incoming G men. They're supposed to be getting real life experience, but all they do is really messed up sex stuff everywhere, and they even have a room dedicated solely to watching porn. This is where Huey first learns that most of them were recruited as kids, so it actually gets kind of sad. One of the
Hmm.
activities the G Wiz crew enjoy doing is pranking the Seven Tower. This is actually funny. So they like will call the Seven Tower, like, oh, is your refrigerator running kind of stuff. And they don't take it well. They don't take jokes well. They get really mad.
Yeah.
Huey, who goes with the G-Wiz kids to the G-Men mansion, they're then greeted by John Godolkin himself. And MM, meanwhile, on another side story, MM is investigating the death of Silver Kincaid. We suddenly cut to Terror. This is not relevant to the story at all, but it's really funny, especially considering this comic's first 6 issues were DC comics. We
Mhm.
then cut to Terror, the dog, who we meet in the show, eating a comic book that says Detective Comics at the top, and the legend go, "Oh, that's," or he's like, "Oh, that's fine."
Dang. Yeah, I guess the breakup was not amicable then.
It's hard to tell with the boys because they just like kind of crap on everything. So it could have just been
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
fun, like, hey, this is a way to honor DC. You really don't know when it comes to them.
Yeah, yeah. It's cool. They're like the South Park of comics.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good example. Yeah, or a good description.
That's awesome. One thing I haven't heard you talk about at all though is Stormfront. So I
Yeah,
forgot, do we get any Stormfront in this volume?
nope, not yet. We don't. I think we get Stormfront in three.
Okay.
Because not to spoil too much, but three is Hero Gasm. So I believe we get
Mm,
Stormfront and we get Soldier Boy. But Stormfront's a dude in the
right.
comics.
Yep, yep, yep. So they gender swap that character. Interesting. Yeah. That's I mean, because the season two, that's such a big plot point. It's interesting that it doesn't come up at all in the comic, but um yeah, I guess they didn't need it. Or
Yeah.
they made it I really like this season. When I go back and watch it, it's like season two was really good actually.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think, it's kinda like with Madeline Stillwell, like, the fact that they gender swapped, Stormfront made for much more interesting storylines with Homelander.
Right, 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 right. That's true. That's super cool.
So yeah, number 25, we gotta go now, part 3. Stillwell, which is James Stillwell in the comic, again, it's Madeline Stillwell in the show, is very concerned about Godolkin as he thinks he's starting to go a bit crazy and too far, which happened in Gen V. Back at the
Hmm.
mansion, Huey is planting bugs all over the place and he runs into a resurrected Nubia who is drooling and mumbling, "Kill me." He's seen a
Mm.
resurrected suit before and stupidly mentions that. Godolkin says he keeps her around because, like all the G-men, she is his child. Back at the G-Wiz frat house, Huey walks in on a group of people doing things to each other while they're watching things that are inappropriate.
What was it? No, I'm just kidding.
It was what Lamplighter was watching in season 2,
Yeah,
maybe?
season two. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
So,
Um,
so yeah,
so
there's not
crazy.
too much to talk about there. So 26 is
Mhm.
pretty short. So Huey lets Butcher know that the G-Men basically all hate each other, but G-Wiz, the other group, they're actually friends, and he'd like to stay longer and potentially help them not turn into super douchebags. Butcher's response is, quote, "Don't fall in love with a stripper," end quote. Very Butcher line. But he okays Huey staying a bit longer. And that's pretty much that issue, which is kind of sad because Huey sees them as these are kids that were victimized. He wants to prevent them from breaking bad totally.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty
Uh,
cool.
so 27, and we're going to go right back into part 5, is
Mhm.
MM still investigating the Silver Kincaid death and manages to find a guy in the town whose brother was named Paul. This Uncle Paul lost the guy's daughter years before, which led to Uncle Paul's suicide. Her name was Grace, and it was Silver Kincaid. She had been kidnapped. So Silver Kincaid is in the show for a half a second. She's one of the people when they end up picking Drummer Boy, who's supersonic. She is one of the
Mhm.
people that Homelander's like, no, we're not gonna. When they had that reality show, so
Yeah.
she had like the I think what is it called, a hee haw keep, I don't want to say it and be disrespectful, but she has a head covering and Homelander's was
Yeah,
racist at
yeah.
that moment and he's like, we're not bringing her onto the seven, are you crazy? So that's
Oh, I might
Silver.
be wrong, but like a hit job, right? I
Maybe it
don't
might
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know, I
Hit
feel
job.
terrible trying to say it without looking it up,
Yeah.
but yeah, she has
Um,
a head covering and he's not okay with that.
Interesting. They do reference that in the show, right? Because we see with who is the new there's the black lady who's super smart. She's
Oh,
like
Sister Sage.
yeah, Sister Sage.
Yeah.
So I know when she's getting recruited, there is a superhero that they talk about that has a hijab. I might be saying that wrong. I'm super apologize if I am, but I think that there is at least a nod to this character in the show, which is
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Well, and I think you see her, she gets like, I forget who she's with. They're like the reality show, they're like, "Oh, you're not going to the next level." And I was like, "Dun dun dun," and it shows them. I should have pulled that picture up.
Oh
If she
yeah,
comes
yeah.
up again in Omnibus 3, I'll pull it up because I've just been pulling them up from the press photos. Um,
Mm, mhm.
yeah. So this issue takes place on St. Patrick's Day. G-Wiz is dressed in green and they are just getting completely demolished. Meanwhile, Butcher is inside a legit Irish pub that is kicking out anyone who is dressed in green. And if you request a shamrock on your Guinness, you're told to F off. I love when they put a shamrock on my Guinness. It makes me unreasonably happy,
Yeah,
especially
it's
when they go to
adorable.
Disney. It is adorable.
Yeah, it's like, who doesn't like that? That's
I
crazy.
apparently this guy because he's telling me to F off. Butcher then pulls Huey away from the festivities with G Wiz. He's having fun with G Wiz, and he pulls him into the pub and he tells him, "Hey, dude, you're done. We're done with this undercover project. We gotta go now." Basically,
Yeah. Why?
because he
Y-
doesn't want him to get too in there. He doesn't want him to get hurt or get in trouble. And Huey's becoming like part of this group. He's feeling for these guys, and
Oh, okay.
Butcher understands like this isn't going to end well for these guys. Uh,
Mm,
he sees what's going on, and it gets really bad. It gets really bad.
okay, okay. Gotcha.
All right, so Stillwell. Now we got to a scene where Stillwell's on the phone with Godolkin, who is telling Stillwell he wants to resurrect Silver Kincaid. While talking, Stillwell hears kids in the background. He is not pleased as they had discussed no more kidnapping. Stop kidnapping people, Godolkin. It's not cool.
Mm,
Godolkin's response was that he doesn't answer to Vought. He's going to do what he wants. He's going to kidnap as many kids as he wants. Stillwell then tells him to
okay.
bury Kincaid and move along. We then see Stillwell looking at a picture of Huey, so he's on to Huey. Now, at Silver Kincaid's funeral, all the G-men are there with all their side groups who all hate each other. During the funeral, many of them are just getting high and talking crap. And Huey
Mm,
is there in his undercover thing, even though Butcher told him not to be there. G-Wiz is then
mm,
talking with Huey, telling him they're all sad that one day they may end up splitting up and having to join the G-men and be with other teams that they hate. After the funeral, we see Huey's undercover is completely blown. Vought wants him alive, though, and Godolkin says he'll not kill him if they let him resurrect Silver Kincaid. So
mm.
G-Wiz goes to attack Huey at the order of Godolkin. However, Huey tries to reason with them as he really just sees them as victims, but the boys show up and Kamiko kills all of them but one.
Oh, wow.
MM then reveals, with the help of the legend, that he got more files on a few more G-men and they were all kidnapped as children, and none of them are orphans.
Okay. Is there, I'm trying to think, is there like more of a story where there's like soup kids outside of Gen V? Not really, right?
Well, there's the Red River. Is it Red River? Red
Oh, Red
River
River, that's
room.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. I feel like that kind of aligns to these like story beats from the comics.
But those would be actual orphans. Like
That's true.
I feel
Yeah,
like they
those two
don't.
kids actually don't have parents.
Yeah, or their parents were not great. Like in Gen V, like you see Kate's parents are like not really happy with her, because she let
Right,
her brother
right.
disappear. So Marie's, she accidentally killed her parents.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think you see kidnappings. I feel like they're all either grown in the lab or something happened to their parents.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm.
The other thing I'm noticing here too is that one thing we see in season two is that Kimiko runs back into her brother, and her brother is part of that like terrorist group that's like trying to make like, you know, soup terrorists and all that kind of stuff, and he has powers himself. And then Stormfront chases both of them. Is there any nod to like Kimiko's past in the comics at this point?
Not no, not at this point. I don't remember in the future. Maybe when we get Stormfront, because obviously Stormfront, it's in the name, going to
Hmm.
be racist POS.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Which I didn't even know after going back and watching it. It's like there's so many hints to her being a Nazi from the beginning. She talks about like, oh, well, I've definitely been here for a long time. So there's like a nod to like she's been, aging really slowly. We see a lot of posters and stuff for Liberty. We find out
Mhm.
later on, like Liberty was one of her first costumes or superhero code names and all that kind of stuff, and then becomes Stormfront. But also her earrings. So her earrings in the show are in the SS lightning symbol.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
need to look into that of Liberty because I feel like Liberty cannot be. Stormfront, I don't believe. I'll have to look into that with the comics, or it'll come up naturally, or
Yeah.
just as I'm rereading. Because yeah, Liberty I felt like was a very feminine character, and Stormfront is not as feminine as the Liberty character would be, which made sense in the progression of when her character was introduced. But as with Stormfront
Mm.
being a very masculine Nazi man in the comic, I don't
Yeah.
know that he was ever Liberty.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I
Okay,
wonder if
yeah,
it could be
maybe that
different.
was something they did just for the show. So that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
I will definitely have to look into that if that does not come up.
Hmm.
Mm. See, that's what I like about this. It's like, "Oh, that makes sense. Oh, okay."
Yeah, yeah.
Be a
No,
fly on the
totally.
wall in that writer's room, man.
I
Mm.
know, right? Yeah, I think about that all the time. I think about the She-Hulk writers' room that was an actual writers' room, and then they put the writers' room in the show. Like
Right.
that must have been like the craziest thing where it's like, and then we, as we sit here today, are all sitting in the show, and you're like, man, that would have been fun.
See, you need to watch Supernatural because there's a whole episode where they bust through a wall and they're literally so Jared and Jensen are playing Sam and Dean, who are playing Jared and Jensen, who are
Oh
pretending to
man,
be Sam and Dean in the show.
wow, that's some meta on meta right there. That's
It is
yeah,
meta. They do quite a few meta episodes, but that one is literally they're sent to another universe to protect them, and they end up in our universe where they're the actual actors, so they're playing themselves,
wow,
but they don't
that's
know that.
crazy.
So, yeah, Supernatural is not what people think it is, where they see like the statues like Fabio. They literally make fun of the covers in the show. I don't know what they did. We're doing with the marketing. All right, so
That's funny. That
issue
makes sense.
29. This is the conclusion, so we got to go. So we got 29 and 30, and then we're wrapping up Omnibus too. All right, so
Okay.
we start with a letter from Godolkin to Vought in 1984. He's pitching them a new program that will make them more money than Payback and the Seven ever made. This is, of course, the
Mm,
proposal of the G-Men. I got to assume this is a nod to like, hey, the X-Men eventually made you way more money than because Payback, I assume, is a nod to Avengers. You're getting payback, you're avenging.
right.
Um, and the
Yeah.
Seven, I don't know. I guess the Fantastic Four. I'm not sure.
Seven is probably, I mean, they didn't have to stick to like Marvel or DC. So seven to me has always just
Oh,
looked
it could
like
be
the Justice
Justice
League.
League. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess my
Exactly.
mind always goes to Marvel first, but yeah, that makes more
Yeah.
sense.
We end up reviewing a lot more Marvel here in Nerd Initiative, but we want to review as many DC comics as we can. Keep that in mind, DC, if you're listening.
I always end up leaning to Marvel too. I think that's just because where I start. You know, you never forget where you start.
Yep. Yep. So
Okay,
true.
so now to the G-Wiz hostage that the boys did take, that Kamiko did not murder. He said they were not taken violently. Godolkin lures them away with candy, toys, and the promise of becoming a superhero. He mentions he had a very calming, reassuring voice, and in my head, I'm like, as I'm reading this, I'm imagining, Charles Xavier,
Mm,
oh, follow me. Yeah.
yeah.
So a few days
Jean?
later, when the kids exactly when the kids want to go home, they're of course told no. And some of the
Mm,
kids who don't like that answer get taken care of. Then
mm,
compound V shots begin weekly until powers begin to show up, which is not always successful.
mm,
Jamal, who's the name of the hostage, then talks about having to do certain things he did not want to do, kind of hinting at murder and pedophilia. And he says as
mm,
they get older, they realize they're not actually superheroes. They're just getting money. So they
mm,
party a lot to deal with it. So that's why they're drinking and they have the, adult erotica movie room. Basically, the G-men exist to kill other G-men who step out of line. Enter a G-man
jeez.
soup who then instantly kills Jamal for telling all of this. Then we see what looks like a bizarro version of the X-Men group photo, all waiting to kill the boys. Actually, you know that giant poster that so many people I literally have it in my son's room of like so many Marvel characters and it's just
Yeah,
covering
yeah.
the whole poster and it says Marvel on the bottom.
Yep.
That's what
Huh.
this looks like, a bizarro version of that.
Okay. Okay.
And so
Got it.
they're all lined up and they're ready to take down the boys. Huey goes charging even though he's like five of them to 50 soups, but Vought then shows up with an army and just slaughters every single one of the G-men. Godolkin,
Huh.
all of the G-men, they're all gone. So it'd be like them
Okay.
just blowing up Godolkin U. This issue ends with Stillwell telling Butcher, quote, just so you know, we can clean up our own shit, end quote. To which Butcher replies, fuck me.
Okay. Very different than anything we've gotten in the show. Uh, yeah, Godolkin is not around when we see Gen V pop up or Godolkin University pop up. Like Godolkin himself is not around.
Well, he's
The
around, but he's not
That's
around.
true. Yeah, yeah. But when you see,
So vague.
yeah, yeah. What is it? Is it Gen V? No, Gen V season one. Yeah, he's like there's not even a real hint maybe that he's there. Only find
No.
out in season two that he's there. But so that's a big change. The G-Men all being united is a change. Them all having messed up past, I guess, is kind of similar, but like, and we do see the parting and all that, but it's not from a place purely of trauma in the show. It's usually from a place of like, hey, these are a bunch of college kids. Like they actually just made them kids.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean I would say that's a pretty big departure than what we got in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why because Matt and I actually did a whole episode right before the first Gen V came out where we did recap just these specific "We Gotta Go" issues, and then watching the show, I was like, "This is incredibly different. This is, like, not
Yeah,
the same at
yeah.
all."
How was it for you watching that? Were you kind of thrown off or were you yeah, how did it affect your viewing experience?
Well, I mean, I expected it because The Boys is so different from the comic, but I felt like Gen V was more different from that specific storyline than The Boys is from the overall comic, because I feel like there's more intentional nods throughout,
Yeah.
whereas Gen V was, uh yeah, it was just completely different. Plus, I don't think that like, the characters that we ended up falling in love with, I don't believe that they existed.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, like Marie, like
Kate,
shoot, the Magneto.
Sam,
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the Magneto one who
Andre.
unfortunately passed away.
Yeah,
Andre, yeah.
Andre,
Yep.
yeah. Chance,
Interesting.
Perdomo, yeah.
Huh. And but it still worked. I mean, it still worked really, really well. I think I love Gen V. It was one of my favorite shows when season one dropped. It made it into like my top three shows, but it was pretty significantly different. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm so curious about the behind the scenes of like why it ended up that way, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they also pulled so much from, like, everywhere into The Boys, so I feel like they kinda leave things open to kinda do whatever they want, but, I mean, and now we're gonna see them kinda combine Gen V and The Boys, I assume, but the posters we got today, so we're recording this the day before the new trailer is supposed to drop, so I'm wondering if
Right.
we're going to see any of the Gen V crew in the trailer.
Yeah. Like any of our predictions could be completely wrong for tomorrow since this is yeah, since we are recording this before that comes out, but um yeah. Yeah, I got to see these dang posters you're talking about too. I have not looked
Oh,
them
we
up
haven't
yet
seen
or
him?
not seen them.
It's just 2 new
Yeah.
posters. One is, like, the 7 crew, and it has Homelander kinda presented like Jesus. Soldier Boy's in
Of
there, you
course.
see, Ashley, you see not Stormfront, you see, oh my goodness, Firecracker.
Sister Sage. Oh, Firecracker.
Sister
Yeah, yeah,
Sage
yeah.
is in there, and then there's some random person in the background. Oh, and you see Noir and Deep, and then the other poster is The Boys, but A-Train is in that one rather than being with the 7. But you don't see
Nice.
anybody from Gen V. I don't know what's going on, but we'll find out.
They're gonna be there though. They're gonna be because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be one more season of Gen V after this season of Boys, which really makes me interested if it's going to end that same way. So it's amazing that we're doing this, going through the comics, comparing it to the show. Because
Yeah.
okay, I feel like this is the first like we've had some deviations already, right? Like through season 1 now into season 2. We don't have Stormfront. In this so we have one more comic to go through and I don't know if you're going to answer it here. So maybe let's try we'll go on to this cuz if it's not answered in the next issue, I have a question that I want to ask you about.
Okay, so let me do the next issue. So this is the last issue.
Sure.
This is issue 30 of Omnibus 2. So the news
Mhm.
explains that the G-men traveled to another dimension to fight evil forever in order to protect Earth. So that's their cover story. Then we see a
Okay.
but this is
That's
I will say, like, even with all the 9/11 stuff, this story here, I think, is the darkest story in the comics to me. So then we see a group of
the part wait, sorry, I want to clarify on that. Is it the part where they just wipe out all the G-men
no,
or like the
the part
cover
I'm
up?
about to say.
Oh, okay. Gotcha, gotcha.
So yeah, so we see a group of kid soups, like little kid soups. They're called pre-wiz, which is super
Okay.
gross if you think about. So the kids are in a dark room and they're all terrified. Then one kid gets them all hyped and excited and he's like, "Hey, we're superheroes and they need to stop the bad guys, meaning Vought. Like they hear there's
Uh-huh.
bad stuff going on. They're like, we're gonna all stop them. And so while these kids are like in the dark and they're like trying to come up with an idea to fight these bad guys because they're superheroes, we
Yeah.
then see a box falling out of the back of a plane that the children are in.
What?
Yes, it's dark.
Oh my god, that's so brutal. Well, why did the kids think that they could go and save them if
Because they
they're
were told, like, "Oh, we're being," because remember they told, in the issue before, Stillwell's like, "Stop kidnapping kids." So
right,
these must
right.
have been the recently kidnapped kids, and they were told, "You're gonna be superheroes." Like, that's how he lures
Oh
them in.
my
So
god,
they're in
that
this
is
box and
so
they're
bad.
scared. They know Vought. They've probably been told, like, I'm sure G-Men hyped him up like, "Oh, Vought is the bad guys. The bad guys are coming to get you." So the one kid's like, "Come on, let's go. We're superheroes. Let's fight him." And then you just see this box fall out of the back of a plane, and then you see like a word bubble come out of the box. That's clearly one of the kids.
Oh, what does it say?
I don't remember specifically. I wish
Oh
I could have it
man.
in here.
Just
I have a
ah.
I don't even think it's that. I think it was like in return, like, yeah, let's get him or something like that. I'll
Oh,
have to see.
that like hurts my heart
Yeah, it's
a little bit.
brutal. And they
Yeah.
don't even, so that's not even part of, so issue 30 is like a standalone. It's not even part of the We Gotta Go. They just started the
Okay.
issue with that and they move on with their lives like nothing happened.
Jeez.
So
Th-
then we see Butcher confront Monkey. Remember, that's Jeffrey D. Morgan.
Mhm.
He's very upset that he didn't know Silver Kincaid was spying for Rayner. So that's apparently what she was doing in the G-Men.
Okay.
Stillwell tells Homelander that they need to change costumes and whatnot because they got makeup, or they got to make up for all the lost money from the G-Men. So they're like, we need to remarket you guys. We need to make more money. All the G-Men are dead. How are we going to make up this money?
Mhm.
Homelander wants to focus on Butcher, but Stillwell says no because he has too much crap on the Seven. Then we wrap up with Butcher and Rayner, of course, doing what they do best, going at it. And Butcher tells her
Wow.
if she ever talks to another soup again and he doesn't know about it and she puts Huey in danger, he'll kill her, her husband, her kids, and that's how it ends.
After like hooking up with her?
Yes.
Wow.
Their
Okay.
hooking up scenes are very like angry. They both hate each other and they both tell each other how much they hate each other while they're doing it. And then they
Okay.
exchange information.
There you go. All right. Well, yeah, I think it was the right move then maybe to kill her off because in the show that wouldn't like Butcher already skirts some lines. You know, there's always moments where you're like, you love him because he's such a badass. He has the best lines, like he looks cool, but also like as you see in season 4, he just makes terrible choices sometimes at the expense of the rest of the boys. And if you had this going on too in the show, you would just kind of hate him even more.
Yeah.
Excuse me, like he's just like I mean, he's a POS. Like everybody's the comics to me, as bad as the show is, like the comic character counterparts are like way worse.
Yes, they are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in the
Man.
show, it's more important for us to like them or feel for them, maybe.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Totally. And it's like you also like yeah, I mean the boys you kind of want to root for them a little bit, you know? And like the butcher you get from the comic, other even though he's standing up for Huey in this situation, he's still a piece of shit. Like, sorry. It's just like
Oh,
he's just
yeah.
not a good guy.
Yes, I agree, and I think in the show you see it too a little bit where he favors Huey, and sometimes the only person he's nice to is Huey, and, like, as much as
Yeah.
Starlight drives me nuts in the show, you
Mhm.
do see her, be mean to Butcher, but Huey's, like, always defending Butcher because Butcher's actually nice to Huey, but not nice to anybody else.
Right, right. Yeah, that's true. It's pretty I mean, I guess in that dynamic they got it. They nailed it perfectly. All right, that's an interesting place to wrap up this volume. Uh what was your takeaways this time reading it? Like how did you feel about it? How did you like how the story played out more or did you find yourself comparing it to the show and wish that they had done some things that the show did?
I think I like the differences, I mean, some of it's very dark, but I feel like it's okay because it's easier to separate it from, like, "Oh, this didn't really happen as a cartoon."
Right.
And that's probably why they're able to get away with more dramatic, crazy ass crap.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I enjoy watching the show more than I do reading it, but the show wouldn't exist without the comics.
Right, right. Yeah. Total chicken or the egg situation there. Yeah, man, that's crazy. After this season 5 is done, I am 100% going to go back and read it because I feel like this experience is going to be so different. So a few things stood out to me when I'm comparing this volume versus season 2 of The Boys, which is okay, we don't get any Stormfront. We kind of get nods to it. We're brought in with a completely different story of Godolkin and the G-Men, which I don't even know if there's anything called the G-Men in the show. They have the
No,
Guardians
they do
of,
Yeah, Godolkin.
yeah, Guardians of Godolkin.
So they made fun of a
And
different property.
right, yeah. I mean, obviously Stillwell's already dead, so that changes things up. But then the other thing was Kimiko's brother is a big plot point in season 2, right? Like, he's like another soup that they find, and the boys are trying to hunt him down because they think he's like this dangerous, like, terrorist or something. And then you find out it's Kimiko's brother, or like the female's brother. Is there any mention to that in the comic?
Not yet. Again, if there is, I don't remember. So we'll find out.
Interesting.
But yeah, the most we got into her was just, Frenchie being like, hey, even though these are bad guys, it's still bad for your heart to kill.
Got it. Okay. Okay, cool. They just kind of, I guess, expanded her story, Frenchie's story, a lot more in season 2. Mother's Milk, I think rightfully so, got kind of a different origin and different issues. I mean, for him, it's all about his wife, right? And his daughter. And his daughter, like now, him and his wife are separating, I think, at the end of season 2. And yeah, I think it's all the way. So season 3 is when the wife starts getting with the,
The
for
Homelander
lack of a
dude.
better comparison, I don't know, don't want to get political, but he's like a MAGA dad, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I would say
And
Homelander, yes, obsessed. But yeah,
yeah,
they are making fun of it 100%. Yeah, that he's MAGA.
yeah. And then yeah, in season 4, like, he tries to reunite a little bit more with his family. So yeah, it's
And the
it's really starting to differ than the show now.
Yeah. Well, I think the show also takes some, like you were saying, political. I think it takes nods to our current situation. Some of it, though, it almost predicts. And I will say the show does not just make fun of MAGA. They make fun of both sides. Like
Yeah,
with their
totally.
brave Maeve, and they're
Yes,
100% mocking everything. No
totally.
one is
Yeah,
safe.
yeah, totally. Yeah, in preparation for this though, I was watching a breakdown and they were saying, how, yeah, even like Star Trek did the same thing when George Takei came out as gay publicly. They then retrofitted his character in Star Wars to be gay as well, and to play off that, and he didn't like that because he was like,
Oh,
that's not how the, even though he's like, I'm all for representation and everything, but he's like, that's not what the creator intended. And like, he's like, I feel like you're using me as like a ploy to like, bring people into the show through my character. And he's like, I don't really like that. So it
hmm.
was interesting, but which is again a very similar, even though it's it's Homelander who outs Maeve, it is very much the same thing in that they're just using her sexual orientation as like a way to like get more people to be bought into the stories and maybe buy her merch or whatever, or buy their
Right.
merch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So totally ripping on both sides, I think. If you take the comparison of Maeve and that world that they present and everything, it kind of, I feel like there's comparisons to Disneyland. Maybe the comparison is to
Oh,
like
yeah.
Disney.
Bot World or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
That was fantastic, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and, going back to the guy that, was obsessed with Homelander that we're saying is MAGA, when he passes away in season 4, MM's like, "Look, I wasn't a fan of the guy, but he did not deserve what happened to him." And
Right.
I think we see that too, is there's people who are reasonable. Nobody wants terrible things to happen like that, and so I think they do a good job of that too, but who the hell
Yeah.
knows what season 5 is gonna predict or make fun of? We have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know, but I know I'm gonna love it. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna appreciate it. I don't try to shy away from the fact that if there's something One, I don't think there's anything politically I'm super obsessed about, but if there was, I would like to know it so I could see if I'm being ridiculous. I don't know if everybody else feels that has that opinion, but I definitely do, and The Boys does it amazingly well.
If you feel personally attacked while watching it, you may need to reevaluate things.
Yeah, yeah,
That's fair.
exactly. Yeah, you might be on the edge of the metaphorical spectrum.
There you go.
Yeah. Cool. Well, right on. I think that kind of wraps up this volume this week. Do you have any other thoughts or anything else you want to present?
So many thoughts, but I will keep it at that for volume 2. Our
Okay.
Omnibus 3 we will do next week, and that will be, yeah, Hero Gasm, and we are trucking along. Before we know it, season 5 will be here.
Right
And
on.
we'll
And
find out how the comic ends.
yeah, I think Hero Gasm 2 aligns with season 3, right? Wasn't season 3 also Hero Gasm?
It was, yes, because that's when
Nice.
Soldier
Okay,
Boy
so
showed
that's
up.
one thing that they have in common between the comics and show. Come back next week. We're going to be talking about Omnibus Volume 3, and then we're going to be talking about Season 3. It's only getting crazier. I'm afraid of this comic, but I can't wait to hear more about it next week.
Yes, my cousin borrowed Omnibus 1, and when I asked her if she wanted 2 when she gave it back, she said, "Nope, I'm good."
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't blame her. All right, everybody. Well, if you stuck around this far, thank you so much. Please like, follow, subscribe, do all that stuff. We are trying to hit some major growth numbers this year, and we need your help. So if you enjoyed this, please make sure that you come back next week, drop your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, follow us everywhere. Thanks.